I'm going to go ahead and get started, and we can just kind of go from there. So I brought some show and tell items to talk about. We have our beautiful rooting sweet potato. So we're going to talk about that because we're going to talk about sweet work too. So some basic honey, vodka. Although I'm a big fan of rum too. Rum, vodka, both great. If I could reach. Okay. Okay. Easy. Easy peasy. We're following. And honestly, all of these things. So I'm gonna share the live one more time before I get started. And after that, we're just gonna hop into it. I have notes, we're prepped. So thank you for hanging out. Thank you for your patience. I'm gonna share the live, like I said, one more time on Blue Sky really quick. And then we're gonna launch into everything, starting with does it make sense? Conjure 101. So will it stay? Yay! Okay, so we're back. All right, we're back. Good deal. Let me take these off. The reflection's not helping anything. So, does it make sense? Conjure 101. This is not going to be full of what's the word I'm looking for? I'm not here to teach you a bunch of specific ancestral things. I'm not here to give you a huge history lesson. This is how my dad taught me, what has kept me over the years as I grew into and explored, was chosen by, etc., my ancestral path, and stuff that you can do now. I want people to have basic skills, basic understanding when it comes to things like craft and conjure. So let's get into it. Thing one, craft and conjure are not the same thing, even though they share space or overlap and intersections. Crafting is the term that I'm using for witchcraft, but that's coming from a very modern, contemporary, neo-pagan space, right? So I should put that at the forefront because witch and witchcraft has different connotation in different cultures. What I mean is the work of charming, enchanting, creating, whatever. That's what crafting is. You can be crafting, you can be conjuring, they're not the same. To conjure is to command the dead, call up the dead, call life into something, give something life. If you're charming something, you're not necessarily giving it life, but you are enhancing it and perhaps setting what's already there to a particular purpose. Something in the middle of this is what I would, call that kind of awakening and connection point where you've built a relationship perhaps with a plot of land or, some plants or whatever it is. Like you're using basil that you've been growing and you're like, all right, basil, thank you for being in my life. Thank you for growing in this space. But B, I'm approaching you at this time because I would like to receive your medicine. I have this cause, I have this concern, this illness, whatever it is. And, I would like to call this essence of you into being. You should always tell your ingredients, right, why you're working with them, what purpose they're being put to. That's a hugely important part of awakening something or crafting or creating something that's actually effective. So actually speak to your tools, speak to your ingredients, build a relationship with them, right? So craft and conjure are not the same, but they overlap. That's thing one. Thing two. A lot of craft and conjure, in my opinion, is common sense. That's why I said, does it make sense? Craft and conjure 101. I recently had a really good meeting with one of my favorite long-term clients, right? They're amazing. I love working with them. They ended up getting a read from someone on like Instagram Live or whatever. Totally normal. People do that all the time. Some people don't even keep like a regular like reader on any kind of retainer, right? B, it's normal to get a read from a different person because you just don't want to see, you know what I mean, what you're going to learn, whatever. So no disrespect to my client. This diviner, though, told them to do a cord cutting with honey and strawberries. And that has been sitting on my heart for about a month. Now, mind you, that day I said honey and strawberries for a cord cutting. Strawberries are in the rose family. It doesn't mean you can't use roses for things, but if you're not using the thorns, it's not. Roses are typically going to be used for love, attraction, connection, right? Even domination, but that's still a connection space. We're not really going to be using roses in a cord cutting. Like I said, you can use the thorns. The thorns are very useful for a lot of things, but rose is not really an energy that we're going to want in a cord cutting. Strawberry is not an energy that we want in a cord cutting. Honey is really not an energy that you want in a cord cutting. And that's because honey binds. It's sticky. It's not just sweetening. It's a literal binder. Bees literally fucking build hives. They make honeycomb. So nothing about honey in its composition, its uses, the way it moves, how it appears, nothing about that really says separation, right? And again, you can turn almost any work how you need to turn it. So honey can be used to really make something stick. Or if you want to go like with the mental kind of tar and feathering imagery, right? Like honey very heated up could be damaging as fuck to land on your skin. But that's not really, you know what I mean? At that point, we're just talking real life violence, not Conjure. Not that Conjure and real life violence don't or can't overlap. But anyway. So you're not really going to be using honey in a cord cutting, right? So that's why we're talking about this. You want things to make sense. So when, I'm saying 101 doesn't make sense, these are the questions you need to be asking. What do I know about this ingredient? What do I know about this energy? How have I heard of it used? Thing one. Thing two, what is the composition of this thing? A lot of people still act like spirit and science are separate. A, they're not. They're not caught up to each other in all the same areas, but they're not separate. B, if you're not approaching your conjure or your studies or whatever it is you're doing with a mindset of really learning that thing inside and out, above, below, through and through, then you're missing a lot of essential steps in understanding. And you are setting yourself up to be taken advantage of, especially in this world, in this day and age, whether the topic is spirituality or something else. If you're not doing your real due diligence, okay, with ego out of the way, if you're not doing your real due diligence, you are setting yourself up to be taken advantage of. So, does something make sense? What is the composition of it? What's the history, the etymology of the name? How is it applied? These are all things to know. If we know honey is a sweetener, but it also binds and is made by things that build and pollinate, now we have more information about how to use it. When we understand the viscosity, the longevity, and the crystallization properties, now we have a better idea of how to use it, right? Thing one. So understanding the process and composition of something is very important. I don't care if that's boring or not. It's very, 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 very important. Anyway, we're going to get our handy dandy notes out. I keep taking my glasses off because they're driving me crazy, but that's whatever. Okay, I do have the spray bottle. Cool. So I brought a bunch of items to talk about each of them as like some conjure basics. And then of course we have our little spray bottle. Gotta have that. And we have our notes here. So why am I holding my glasses like this? I want to talk about things like sympathetic magic and currencies for a second. So I'm going to tell you a story. And again, this will go on the podcast. It'll go on the podcast and YouTube. But let me tell you a story. So many, many, many moons ago, years ago, I was working at the first nursing home I ever worked at. They were sold, and anyway, they're long shut down as far as I know. Ouch. Oh, Lord in heaven, I'm always sitting on my own bones. Why? I don't know why. Oh, there we go. Wow. That's way better. Oh, shit. Oh, shit. Okay. Anyway, I'm knocking stuff over on the floor because I'm used to sitting on the floor. So, ages ago, I worked at this nursing home. I was still super green and ate a lot of things back at that time. And I was not in a healthy space at that time either. There were some things I was doing a little too much. And so one day I had a couple things scheduled. I worked midnights. That's important here. I worked midnights and I was fucking up and around doing stuff throughout the day. So that day I had a house blessing to do and I had a reading to do. So my mom and my godmom were at, our house. Well, it was my mom's house. I lived there. My godmom had come over. We're doing a group reading. I do this 2 hour fucking like 25 card, like real, real, real long reading. If you've ever read cards, you already know that was a lot. That was a lot. And I wasn't just taking each card like at its surface. Like I was doing in-depth work, right? Because I used to read in shops as well. So anyway, so I was doing this in-depth reading and um was that first or second? That was I don't remember what order this happened in at this point. I'm gonna be so honest. Either way, I did a really, really, really long reading. And I think I did the house cleansing right after this. Now I had done a lot of house blessings and gentle cleansings. I'd done some exorcism cleansings. Um, but this one was really different for me. This one really hit. And again, all of this is important. So I go over. It's important to note that the house cleansing was for a former employer whose brother that I had had a fling with at the time, and they shared the property. Anyway, the brother's friend was staying with them. The brother's friend was staying with them. She was not well. She was going through a lot of stuff and she was not well and had concerns about, ghosts from her own family being in this space now where she was staying. And so they called me because I'm the one to call. So they called me and they said, "Hey, can you come put this together? Can you come take care of this?" And I said, "Well, yeah, I'll come look into it. I'll see what's going on." They happened to call my friend slash former coworker because we're in the same field and we had done these things. We had done like cleansings and stuff together anyway at the time. And so we're both there and we're both off rip. Like, hey, this doesn't feel right. This doesn't feel like this. Something about this is wrong. And start doing the blessing, the cleansing part. And I'm like, every room, I don't fuck around with this stuff. We're doing top to bottom, inside and out. I'm hitting every corner. I'm getting in the closet. I'm getting the windowsills. I'm getting in between the blinds. If you hire me for a house cleansing and blessing, we're getting in there. And if we need to do a depression clean first, we'll figure that out too. Because I've been a housekeeper and I love cleaning. Anyway, that's beside the point too. I've done a little bit of everything. So I'm getting in everything and I'm like, shit feels weird. And she keeps asking me these weird questions. And it's one thing for someone to be curious. I love informing. I love teaching. I love interacting. People be curious and I want to answer questions all day to the best of my ability and to the best of their current level and safety, right? Cool. But she's asking me these weird, I'm trying to find the right way to phrase this, but when somebody's testing you to see if they know more than you or if you have the ability to protect yourself. And again, this is in the context of working in spaces of divination, craft, and conjure because people can get kind of weird and catty. So anyway, she starts making all these weird remarks and eventually she's like, "Hey, how are the brakes on your car? Like, I would love to look at your car." That shit was so out of left field and so sideways because we don't know one another. I know the people that live here that hired me. I know the person, my peer and colleague who I'm doing this work with. I don't know you. And my gut's telling me that you're unwell, that you're not right, that there's other stuff in the house with you internally. And I don't want any part of that right now. So at this point I get to my sage because back in this time I was still burning sage. I don't anymore. I have not for a long time. I don't purchase it. I really just make all my own blends as much as possible. But at this time I was still working with sage. And I had talked to my sage bundle. I had done all my prayers, everything. And it started going off something crazy around her. I mean, the smoke was just billowing something fierce around her. So I said, okay, like, whatever, blah, 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 blah. We wrap it up. I finally get in my car to go after doing some prayers over my car because I made sure she did not get to go around it because she was just being very fucking weird, talking about my brakes and this and all this weird stuff. Again, we don't know each other and you want to start working on my vehicle while I'm here? I don't think so. Absolutely not. And the sage would not go out. Even trying to put it out in their, it was like a stone, gravel driveway. The sage would not go out. I was in my car and it was still smoking. It smelled like burning flesh. I got home. It smelled like burning flesh. I had to pour holy water over it and throw it into the backyard. I can't explain it because it really should not have been, in my opinion, at this point, the backyard because I didn't really want to keep it there. But my thought was I'm throwing it behind me, whatever. I don't have a good reasoning for it at this point because this was 6 years ago or more. maybe even 7 years ago at this point. And I just remember feeling so agitated. And I was very close with that backyard, that space there, full of mulberry trees and maple trees. And like, it's just a yard that I had a very strong connection with the plants of. And so it was like, nah, do this and then throw it. And so that's what I did. I did that and threw it. I think I did the reading for my mom and my godmom before the house blessing. I think we did like the reading, the blessing, and then I came home so that I could kind of get ready for work, right? So come home, have time to take an hour or two nap, which is not enough. Don't work midnights and do that, but I was young and dumb. So take my nap, whatever, kind of get ready. And I'm in the backyard, I think, doing whatever. And there was a spirit in my backyard, nature spirit. I was a fan of him, not anything bad, not anything evil. That's another important point here. Not everything is evil, but things are also not all moving on human morality and human understandings of good, bad, pleasant, scary, whatever. Like you being communicative and aware is very important. The nature spirit in the back had come over from Europe many, 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 many moons ago, centuries ago, very long time ago, like very, 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 very like Viking type shit. Had come over a really long time ago. His people had been very in communion with nature, had done a lot of festivals with nature, and he missed like dancing. I remember that was the big thing. He missed dancing. And so this day where I had been up too long, had alcohol, did this weird cleansing, blessing thing, and done a big reading. Those are important variables. I was not steady. I was not grounded. I was not making sure my kind of energetic doors were closed or that the leaks were repaired. I was open to things. So Oscar kind of like hopped in my body basically and was like, boom, boom. I started dancing. He's like, oh my God, I miss dancing. I miss dancing. I miss dancing. I was like, you got to get the fuck out. Hey, you got to go. You got to go. And that was a very deep lesson. I decided to stop telling the story at that point, but that was a very deep lesson for me, regarding being safe with spirits and spirit work. And I have been a medium my whole life. It's just at different points in my life, the gifts have gotten, kind of crazier. Right. Um, and so, I had to kick him out, but later he visited one more time and, it was a thank you. He was like, I want to give you this message. Thank you basically for making it so I can go back home type shit. Like he had like the spirit had been tethered. That's another conversation for another day. That's not quite craft and conjure 101. That's like mediumship 102 or 103. Spirit, different types of spirits, tethers, entrapments, etc. And I say tether to mean he was literally stuck to something, not to talk about people and their weird fucking fear mongering about like tethers between one another. If y'all don't grab some scissors and snip, 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 take ownership of your energy and cut a bitch off. Anyway, the lesson, though, that he reminded me of was sympathetic magic. And this is not something that was new to me, but I had kind of forgotten it at the time. And I think sympathetic magic is very important and useful for people who either don't have a lot of means, don't have a lot of um, access to other ingredients, whatever it is, because it's the understanding that things that might look similar or have an association or correspondence can essentially stand in for one another, be used for one another, or be connected to create an effect. And so when I use the term magic, of course, I'm talking about like utilizing and influencing energy or enacting some kind of, shift, whatever it is, right? So, sympathetic magic. There's a couple things to talk about here. There's a couple branches of stuff to talk about here. Thing one, currency, provision, protection, yada, yada, yada. Thing two, the actual materials. So when we're looking at sympathetic magic, for an example, chicken feet. You can buy a chicken foot. You can draw a chicken foot. You can find a stick that looks like chicken feet. Or you can have a little piece of plant that looks like chicken feet. Chicken foot have the little ankle part and then like the little three little, pieces there and maybe that little bit in the back and scratch things up. Chickens have been around for thousands of years. They were domesticated about 8,000 years ago. from I think like an Indonesian or like Sri Lankan red pheasant. But anyway, they're worldwide at this point. And they figure very prominently in a lot of different folklore and mythology from across the world. Chickens have also been used for divination in many spaces. Of course, in my mind, I'm going to be looking at ATRs and DTRs, but chickens were used for divination as far back as ancient Greece and ancient Rome. And whether or not they would accept these special cakes that were made for them, like would let you know basically if the omen was positive or negative. Like if they're eating, well, positive. If they're upset, they're ignoring it, they're scratching, they're cawing, whatever it is, negative. The answer is probably no, or there's some other stuff that needs to be done. So, and in my practices, chicken, I can't get no words out. Chicken feet are commonly used for protection. That's probably the most I'll say about that. For protection, to scratch things up, to find stuff out, to clear things away, whatever it is. At the end of this, I'll give you a little recipe for something that I made a very long time ago that served me very well. Um, anyway, so understanding that you can use something that looks like something else, right? So maybe you can't get chicken feet, whatever reason, or for some reason it grosses you out. Although if it grosses you out, I'm gonna respectfully say don't be Conjure. If you can't get over something grossing you out, I don't know what to tell you. And that doesn't mean that stuff won't. I'm looking for the right word. You should never be disturbed or harming yourself or re-traumatizing yourself to do something. Okay. That being said, if you are going to decide, claim, and be claimed by spaces that call you to real craft and conjure, your hands will get dirty. Blood might be involved at some point one day. It is what it is. You have to make peace with that. You have to make peace with that. And if you don't, that's on you. Anyway, and in times like these, we don't really have the luxury of being detrimentally squeamish about protection. I'm sorry. If a chicken foot bothers you to carry around or to make or to bless, are you going to punch somebody? And I mean that lovingly. I mean that so lovingly. I don't know. I'm 12 people and a toddler in a trench coat. So there are things that are going to make me cry and things that make me liable to punch somebody. And either way, I'm going to have a chicken foot in my pocket. So, you know what I mean? What am I really talking about? Anyway, anyway. The reason I mentioned currencies in connection to sympathetic magic. Currency is a big deal. Currency is a big deal. Now, currencies connect to, of course, region, culture, the time, whatever it is. But also, they connect to provision. Beans could be currency. Coffee beans can be currency. Salt and spices, salt and other spices, rather, have all been currency, okay? Things that, textiles and silk, currency. Dyes, currency. Social status, beauty, all of these things are currency. It's important to understand that wealth, sorrow, any concept, they take many forms. If you understand that currency can take many forms and that provision takes many forms, you will have more avenues of magic available to you or more ideas around magic available to you. For example, you know what I mean? Maybe my bills are all paid, whatever, my money's fine, but it's some other stuff I need. Like, okay, everything is paid up, but I don't have extra to go get something. Then the provision that I need, yes, maybe it's money might help, but also a gift of that thing. The reason I say that is because my money works didn't really start hitting until I was in my mid 20s or my late 20s, but provisional work have never fucking failed in my life. My fridge don't never be empty. My freezer is never empty. Eggs went crazy. I got 3 dozen eggs right now that I did not have to pay for. Praise be to God. And I don't mean that in a way to brag. What I mean is that there are certain things that it's important to understand how to work. In this day and age, like right the fuck now, money's important. Paper, cash, coin, currency, absolutely important. You know what else is important though? Networking. Who do you know? What's your get out of jail free card? What extra skill do you have? That shit's important right now. So understanding how to do provisional magic that matches your need is essential. Money's great to have. Money is helpful and wonderful. What is that? See, I'm nosy. I don't like seeing stuff outside. Money is great to have. Money is wonderful to have. Can you conjure up some dinner? Can you conjure up some connections? Can you get the things moving behind the scenes that need to be moving? So anyway, the reason I say that is because if you are going to do craft and conjure, choosing your tools, choosing your ingredients, or finding the right perspective to work what you have. It's just important. It's essential. Coffee, for example, speeds things up. So maybe you want to add some coffee somewhere that you need a little extra and you need it quickly, but you don't want to agitate things. Coffee's also hot and agitating. You want to understand the temperament, the composition. Again, how is it used? What is the flavor? What are the associations? That is going to tell you how to stack those things. Um, because I recognize that I'm getting myself kind of into that phase of repeating thing, I'm gonna read just some of the notes real quick and then just show you each thing and go from there. Um, and I don't know if this will be much, much longer or not after that. I might go on live on TikTok too. We'll find out. Anyway, so our note. Like I said, for currencies, salt, other spices, beans, beads, silk, textiles, of course, money, skills, meals, all those kinds of things. So when we're doing works to make sure we have provision, that's what you want to use. Pray over your beans, pray over your coffee, pray over all of your grains. Thank them for their multiplicitous presence in your life. Thank them for their multiplying presence in your life. Thank you for, or, let them know. I really can't get the words out. It's like 12 ideas want to tumble out at one time. Tell the things thank you for being in your life. Okay. Let them know you enjoy. Okay. But just convey the happiness. I'm struggling with getting words out. And that's been a problem more and more since, multiple COVID infections in my life. So again, 12 out of 10 negatively don't recommend. Um, but anyway, so those are some currencies. Vessels. What are we using? What are we putting our work in? How are we composing or arranging this work? You have things like liquor bottles. That's a money rattle. We'll talk about our money rattle. You have things like your Cafe Bustelo jar, right? Or any other jar. When your alcohol is gone, if you used it to drink instead of make something with, now you got another bottle. Each of those fucking bottles has a different energy on it, okay? This has one energy because it's vodka, because of the shape of the bottle, because of who made it, because of how it costs, because of the label, and because it's made out of, of potatoes. Couldn't get the work out. Now, this Hennessy Money Rattle bottle, different connotation again. There's a honey, different connotation again. So, doing Conjure, even at its base level, crafting Conjure is a little bit of fucking compositional work, right? Do you understand the variables coming into play? I don't say this to overwhelm or to have people overthinking. This is my understanding developed over years, and many times I'm just using what I have, right? So, but the vessels that you might work with, a jar, a jug, a gourd, a bowl, a cup, a casket. Okay, you can buy them little mini caskets and nail some shit in there. Done. It's dead. It's over. Um, Less traditional vessels. You know what I'm saying? Well, I don't know if it's less traditional or not, but since it's sitting in front of me, a flower pot, I picked the one thing that's dead. There's a bunch of stuff alive back here. But a flower pot. And this is actually really interesting now that we're on it because clay or ceramic holds water. This is my humidifier, right? So the humidifier actually sits in this dish and you fill the dish up with water and the ceramic absorbs and then releases the water. Terracotta pots absorb and release water. That's why they're good for some plants. They're better for some plants than others. That's all beside the point. What I'm trying to say is understanding the type of vessel that you are using, again, can make your work more cohesive and effective. Pardon me. If I want to make a rattle, okay, we're going to use the money rattle for our example. If I want to make a rattle, I need something that has enough space to work. This actually originally wasn't going to be a rattle. If you look somewhat closely, you'll see that there's papers rolled up in there. This is something that I was going to pour honey and liquor on, but then eventually I changed my mind. So what's in it is something that I referenced in one of the writings recently, which is papaya seeds. There's papaya seeds and dimes and petitions and dollars and things in here. It's not a very effective rattle because I didn't use a big enough bottle, but it's effective enough. It gets the job done. Okay, shaking some money at you, shaking some money at you. It's only you watching. It's only two of us here. So shaking some money. May God bless you with all kinds of blessings. Um, but anyway, this honestly would have been a better option, but I would take the label off and redo it. Um, this would also be a good option. This would be a great option. It's easy to change out what's in there or to add to it with a wider mouth and a bigger jar. Then we have more room. And then finally, if I keep the Cafe Bustelo label on, we're really doubling down on maintaining that espresso energy. It's literally instant. So it's been compressed, dried. That way it can pop right back up in cold water and hot water, whatever. So that kind of versatility, you want that in your life. Again, I'm a party store conjurer. This is party store magic. Um, Using what you have, repurposing, right? So if you notice, I took this off, and this is a bracelet. This is something I inherited. I really recommend. I love using jewelry, even before I was recently blessed with some new items, some new additions. I use my own jewelry, so at this point, what I've done is kind of trip out all my spirits. I'm very excited about that. Everybody got a necklace on. I'm a fan. Um, but but just adds a little. Okay. So I will say I have not in a long time looked into the history of rattles. I don't have a good memory for the history of rattles, and I don't mean rattles for babies because I kind of don't care. I don't care. But spiritually, and that's because I've loved rattles my whole life. Spiritually, ever since I was a kid, I loved gourds. I loved, shaking a gourd that had like seeds or anything in it. Just making any rattle out of a bottle always made me happy. I feel like it's waking things up. That's a very percussion related thing, right? We know that sounds wake spirits up or call things to action. If you need a real life example, we can look at drummer boys. Sad, but real. The young men in like the Civil War, if I recall correctly, who would be playing the drum, playing the drum calls, right? We also see a lot of countries and different cultures using drums for meditation, for communication, to set off a celebration. If I recall correctly, and I could be wrong, so I could be wrong here. If I recall correctly, drumming is something that was outlawed, or if not in writing, still outlawed, just not in writing, amongst different groups of enslaved people because it's ways that they could communicate back and forth. Um, so drums and percussion are things that are associated with awakening, with warriors, with connection, with calling a spirit up and empowering it, right? You hear drums a certain ways, like, oh, okay, bitch, let's go. Like I'm about to move. Um, and so anyway, I have always been a big fan of rattles. They're very, very, very easy to make. Stones, dried seeds, um, dimes, quarters. I like dimes because they're like a good, easy size for that kind of work, and they're still good to bless. I love all coins, but dimes and quarters, because they're the two highest value of coins that we have that are also silver, those are superb because you can put them out under the moon and get that extra kind of lunar charge. And if you're wanting to make a little more dough and provisions, um, the moon is your girl every single time. You're making a wish, the moon. Don't do it when she's besieged, but when you're making a wish, the moon is your girl. Anyway, so different light sources can be celestial light sources, the sun and the moon. So again, we're looking at magics, and different types of magic. Maybe you want to make something solar, right? You want to do a little ego support work on yourself without getting too Martian about it. So you make something solar. Look at me. I'm beautiful. I'm gorgeous. I'm amazing. I'm creative. I'm bright. I'm really that bitch. Boom. Get you a little sun. And if you can't find the sun somewhere, draw one. Get a yellow marker. If you don't have yellow, use a black Sharpie. I don't give a fuck if you use black Sharpie or your finger in the sand to draw a sun and write yellow sun on it. It doesn't have to be exactly that. But what I mean is you're never actually lacking an ingredient for Conjure. You might not have it in your hands, but if you can get even within 1 inch of that thing in your mind, you have the channel of possibility. You have the essence. You are able to work it. It is very helpful to have a tangible reminder of what we're working, right? Okay, I can see this paper, so I see an idea coming to life. But again, in craft and conjure, is you is or is you ain't. You need to stand on the fact that you have the ability, you have the gift, whatever it is, right? Okay. So again, just a quick review. Chicken feet, which we'll do a quick little talk about in a second, in terms of like putting some together. Chicken feet, different types of currency and understanding provision. understanding what kind of vessel you might be using and why, and understanding, potential light sources and what light is. And the reason I say that is because light draws, light clarifies. It represents illumination as both understanding and literal sight illumination. So when you're doing works around things like awareness, discernment, intuition, knowing yourself, a literal know thyself working, you're going to want to consider what the light source is. So, lunar energies, of course, the moon is reflecting the sun's light, but she still has a ton of her own energies, right? So we're looking at the underside, our maybe less explored spaces, family spaces, the things that we've come from, fourth house, sixth house, eighth house themes, right? If, we're focused on like starlight in a vague way, it's dreamy, it's full of illusion, it's full of myth, it's, full of direction even. People have done navigation for centuries by the stars. So understanding the context of the light source. A candle represents illumination. It's something on the altar. It's something we use to guide our spirits to the altar. It's also a light in the dark or something that we can look at with longevity. So anyway, this is all a bunch of moving pieces, and I know it's kind of a rambly, non-lecture lecture, but understanding variables, not to be ultra mercurial or anything, but I am. So understanding variables is very important. Who, what, when, where, why, plus time and place, plus emotional motivation, plus intersection of context. I feel like I have a mosquito bite right there, so please forgive the scratch. Anyway, so light can also be represented by or representing knowledge, like I said. So again, understanding the light source is important. Okay, so let's talk real fast, super quick. Chicken feet and protection. So we talked about chicken feet for a minute in the context of using chicken feet for protection. I'm not going to give away anybody else's thoughts. This is how I put something together with my understanding. Obviously, if you're not Black American, hoodoo's not for you at the fuck all. So please don't ever call on a hoodoo spirit. But chickens have been worldwide for like 8,000 years. They belong to like damn near every culture. So I think that's a pretty safe one to work with. What you do is either you get the chicken foot yourself, which I'll be honest, I haven't done that yet. I have not chased down, and one day I might though. It's on my list. It's on my list. But I haven't done that. But that's one way. That's probably the most real ass way to do it. And I think that's legit as fuck because then you have to actually talk to the chicken. Otherwise, make your prayers because again, we are appreciating the animals that we're working with. This isn't just I'm about to go to the store willy-nilly and do what the fuck ever. Make your prayer at the beginning, please. God, ancestors, spirit of the protector, spirit of my warriors, please guide me lovingly with integrity to an animal who has, aligned with this purpose. And that's something that I have a hard time getting the right words out around because the production of and relationship to livestock is incredibly impersonal and violent and cruel here in the US. I have the luxury of knowing folks who have chickens. Not everybody always has that. And what was once a pretty reliably inexpensive protein source is not as inexpensive right now. So that's also why I say get in where you fit in. If you gotta draw it, use a stick, use a plant, that's still beautiful. That still works, brother, okay? Anyway, get you some chicken feet, go to the butcher, get them. They're not very expensive still. Feet, innards, hearts, gizzards, none of that's too expensive. All of it's very useful for offerings, for gravies, for a little fucking hot pot to put your enemies in. You know what I mean? Do your thing. Anyway, get you some chicken feet. Dry them out. I'll be honest, the first time I did this, and I've only really had to do it once. I'm gonna do it again soon, but I made a few. And I tried mine out in the oven, like in salt, and then I stored them in salt. Of course, next time I will probably do borax, I think is what a lot of people do. That's beside the point. I am going to continue doing sea salt because I like it, and that's the recipe that I'm sharing with you guys now. So dry out your chicken feet very thoroughly. You don't want them to be nasty. Dry out your chicken feet thoroughly. I made my own black salt. So I used sea salt, and then I burned a variety of different things. I won't be giving that away. Burned a variety of things. Made my own ash blend. Used my ashes to make my own black salt, etc., etc. You can buy black salt. You can order it from somebody, but there's just certain shit I'll never trust from someone else, like, respectfully, even if they got that fucking hand to make it. I need it done my way. I'm just one of those kind of people. So I prefer, and I think it's more effective if, unless you really don't have the time and really don't have the gift, in which case make sure your folks are directing you to the right people. I think things are really more effective if you make them yourself. So that's just me. But again, do your own thing. My own herb blend, make my own salt, whatever. Um, After all of my ingredients have been prepared, all of them, garlic. Okay, we're listening. Garlic. Garlic is an allium. For my hoodoos, garlic, like other alliums, produces organosulfuric compounds like allicin. Okay, organosulfuric compounds. What I'm hearing as a hoodoo and as a conjure is sulfur, natural sulfur for free in the garlic. Bitch, yes. Anyway, garlic is a very protective plant, very good for your health, very good to fight diseases. I consider her one of God's greatest boundary warriors. I love garlic. That's all I have to say is I love garlic. She's amazing. So, garlic, some good dried garlic, or some fresh cloves. I think what I did was fresh cloves that I put pins through because I want to pin that protection. So, and I'll be so real, I didn't even have a hanky for this, like, which is so stupid because I've been doing hanky mojo since I was like 7. I had a plastic sandwich bag. And again, party store conjure, we use what we have. Ideally, moving away from single use plastics, right? Like, again, this was many years ago. This is before 2020 that I made this, which is why I'm probably finally sharing it now. Nowadays, I would probably not use a plastic bag. Anyway, don't mind me. Um, Pierce your garlic. Make sure your black salt is prepped. Make sure your chicken feet are prepped. If you have your own Lost Stay Away oils, use those. If not, um, make a prayer for Lost Stay Away. So Lost Stay Away is a type or a body of work, which, like many types of work, can be expressed through multi-day things, baths, powders, incenses, washes. A lot of things can be expressed in many ways. I did for many years a prayer, and this is why I say in the recent writing, Lost Stay Away with nuance, because should there be an event where it's really needed, where God forbid I actually need law enforcement for whatever reason, um, then I want someone with integrity, with love, with clarity, with good support, no nonsense to be what shows up. So that's what my nuance usually is. Law stay away, except in this like kind of extreme case. What you can also do with that is a no interruptions prayer, like when you're traveling. So no interruptions, delays, no detriment, whatever. I don't know why I do a lot of alliteration, but no interruptions, no delays, no detriment, no delays. Um, Make sure that myself and everyone in my car and all those on the road around me make it to their destination or multiple destinations safely with no issue and back home safely with no issue. And the reason that I try to cover the people around me when I'm driving, besides myself, is one, probably because my parents unintentionally ingrained this habit into me when I was a kid, even though I wasn't raised super religiously. There was always like a spiritual element. And like I had friends that went to the church, right? So like I learned you're supposed to pray like for your friends and family. And as a kid, because I'm neurodivergent and a Pisces stellium, I was like, oh my God, I'm supposed to pray for everyone I love. And shit you not, I would be a child mentally like envisioning a grid. Like I would be trying to envision multiple city maps with like these little zones, like circumference zones of prayer. Um, Over them, especially areas where my family or friends were. I would be asking God to cover them. So one, I think I just learned it as a child and probably took it to the autism super level that I could take it. But two is because I'm trying to actually cover the ground around me, not to be overly self-serving, but I want myself to be covered because I don't want to hurt anyone around me. I want to make sure that I'm being considerate and aware of my surroundings, but also I want the people around me to be alert. And that's not a prayer of any kind of interruption. That's not doing anything against them. That's not fucking up their free will, right? I am praying that God covers them. I'm praying that the angels cover them, that spirits of support cover them, and, keep us all safe in this space, right? Because I don't want nobody getting hurt. I will say also my dad was a paramedic for most of my life, for about 30 years. He had been a paramedic before I was born. So, uh, being raised by a paramedic makes you look, I think, at some things a little differently too, especially on the road. But that's beside the point as well. So anyway, we're gonna keep moving on. But get your chicken feet, dry them out, get you some garlic cloves, pierce those with a pin. Not just any pin, it needs to be a safety pin. The reason I say that is because we want it to close back up, right? A sewing pin, pin something onto a doll. Cool. A nail, pin something, hang it up, good, no problem. Rusty nail, different kind of energy. I did probably put nails in that bag though because I wanted it to be nailed down. But anyway, a safety pin connects, closes, it makes its own kind of like little loop track. That's what we want energetically. Put all that stuff in there, carry it on you. That is one that I carried on me. That was not a stay on the altar mojo unless you make two of them and one is on the altar and one is on your person because now we're making a cord to come back home. So a lot of works, are meant to make sure people get back home, to make sure they stay safe, their loved ones stay safe, etc. That's what we really need to be knowing in this day and age. So make your chicken foot however you feel called to make it. Make sure you get back home. We talked about this very briefly in one or two of the posts. So like I said, the rattle, I already mentioned that this one has money hanging on it. It has things like, I think, corn silk and bay leaves, as well as those papaya seeds. Thank you notes, petitions. If there's a $2 bill in there, I need to get some more of those and what have you. So make sure, you know what I mean? And you can make one for protection. You can make one to scare away enemies, whatever it is. I really recommend people keep, and unless alcohol is not safe to have in your home or any kind of substance reliance um issues at all. Totally understood. In that case, we'll talk about some other alternatives. But real quick, I do think just having on hand like a fifth of vodka and or rum, if not vodka, white rum, and brown rum, is like ideal. Sorry, I got a text from somebody really quick, threw me off. But I think that's like ideal. Uh what was I gonna say? Oh, because you can use it to feed your spirits, feed your roots, make a quick medicine if needed. When I say quick medicine, I really mean like, you're out of cough medicine, you need to make a hot toddy, or you want to make some kind of like maybe a rosemary, thyme, garlic infusion so that you can mix that with some honey and lemon juice and, take a shot back, toss it back, whatever. Anyway, various liquors are good for feeding, awakening, all kind of things. And then you have the bottle, right? So keep that on hand. And worst case scenario, maybe, you know what I mean? You have unexpected company. You guys make a drink. That's not even worst case. Anyway, coffee. Now, I'm a big fan forever of Cafe Bustelo. Period. I try to keep a couple coffees at home, but I usually have some of this or Medaglia d'Oro, which is one that my grandma always bought me. That I think that's an Italian instant espresso. That's beside the point. Um, I love her so much. I ended up with two of those jars after she passed. Two jars of Medaglia d'Oro. They're gone. They're long gone now. I used them up. But anyway, again, feed your spirits. Okay, so coffee is good for a lot of spirits. We talk about coffee in. I'm looking. My book isn't over here. It doesn't matter. We talk about coffee in my book, Honey, Mini Guide to a Sweet Life. I really recommend the page and a half, 2 pages on coffee in that. Um, but anyway, coffee, heat heats things up. It speeds things up. It's a very nice offering that a lot of spirits across various cultures enjoy. The reason I say either get the book Honey Mini Guide to a Sweet Life or spend some time doing intentional research is because coffee is an over-industrialized and abused plant crop that has a very long and rich history, including mythology, fucking theft, very colonizery, truly for real. Um, Things like resistance and rebellion meeting in coffee houses, it being outlawed, demonized, to popes trying it and saying, "Holy shit, this is God." So, coffee has a very long and rich history, an incredibly potent and powerful spirit, but it's very, very, very fucking non-negotiably important to recognize that coffee is also a lower canopy toward ground plant that thrives in shade and also helps provide shade, and that current means of production are not only in the hands of people not out there in the field, but still in spaces can involve enslavement, much like chocolate. Okay. So I love coffee. I love her down, but for the rest of my life, I will be an advocate in doing some kind of information everywhere I go. So we love coffee, but love the people as much or more than the thing itself. And love the plant where it comes from. We're not entitled to everything out of season. We've gotten very accustomed to everything out of season because this country was built on that as a concept. But we're not entitled to it. So get you some chicory. It grows everywhere. Anyway, this is my sweet potato baby. I love her so much. You can see that I did recently give her some water. You can see the bottom is a little wet there. And this is a special bowl. This was one of my favorite bowls. I used it all the time until it got cracks in it. The reason I say that is because this has become a sacrifice. This is an offering. I won't be able to use this to eat anymore anyway because of the cracks. But now I'm really giving it up. It belongs to my sweet potato baby. This is one that I bought that I knew I was going to end up hopefully using for this purpose. And when I saw her starting to sprout a while ago, I realized that she had accepted that. Much like tapping in with an animal, asking if it's something that they're welcome to, you have to check with a plant or a root. Now, let's get into this a little more. I also asked her if I could do this show and tell moment with the sweet potato. You'll see she has some incredibly gorgeous vines. They're kind of purpley, turning green. So when they start out, they are purple and then they turn green as they grow. She has cute little leaves that sometimes look a little bit heart-shaped. I'm going to put her back in the bowl very carefully. So cute little leaves are a little bit heart-shaped. And if you put these near a window or another source, like I'm pointing in front of me, you can't see it in front of me, is we have like a bunch of plant shelves. If I put her down here with the rest of the plant, pardon me, she'll start to grow, like, and her tendrils will wrap around. But I keep her upstairs right now. That's beside the point. Now, paying attention to things like heat, moisture, whatever, that's always key. Like, of course, water is evaporating from off your glasses if it's fucking 9 trillion degrees. It's very important to have a basic understanding of science when we're doing Conjure stuff so that you're able to discern and differentiate from normal environmental activity to spirit activity. There are times when it's freezing cold and I put cold coffee. Not actually, I don't really give them iced coffee, but I have given them cold coffee sometimes. I'll put a cold drink up and the cold drink still evaporates like crazy. Or there's times when it's hot and I put up something hot and you would think it would evaporate very quickly, but for whatever reason, they either didn't like it or it wasn't the correct, like, I've had an altar up for more of my life than not. I've been doing spirit work and having altars up since I was like 12 or 13 and like lasting since I was like 16 and I'm 31 now. So the amount of years that I have had to build understanding and build relationships, sometimes it's easy to forget that I've had that time. But that's why I say have that scientific understanding to the best of your ability because it will help you build that understanding of what your spirits are feeling, saying, what information is coming through. But the sweet potato is very important because this is a home blessing thing. Now, I will probably plant her outside when she's done with her growing phase. Again, we're going to put her outside probably. I say probably, most definitely. She's so beautiful and perfect. But sweet potatoes are, say it with me, sweet. They're sweet. They're sweet. They're sweet. They're also full of vitamins, like beta carotene. Isn't it beta carotene? They're orange on the inside. Anyway, beside the point. Potatoes are good for you. Vitamins, nutrients, not protein, probably very tiny, minute amounts of protein, but vitamins and nutrients, connection to the earth. It's a root. We have that water holding energy. And again, for those of us in the diasporic eligible spaces and the HPR eligible spaces, especially as hoodoos, which not every hoodoo is a root worker, not every root worker is a hoodoo, not every conjure is a root worker, is a hoodoo, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. I know this. Everybody knows this. In our wider spaces, roots are essential. Roots are really fucking everything, right? They are literally like, mwah. Roots are literally the base. They are our spine. They are the bottoms of our feet. They're the earth, the tectonic plates, our memories, our ancestral stories, our cultural identities. Our roots are so many things. It's where we come from and where we send nutrients back to. A lot of plants, especially water holding plants, or things that have large bulbs or whatever that is, they hold water. Now, when we're talking about a season like this, when in the year of our Lord 2025 in Michigan, bitch, I'm in Michigan And it's 98 degrees, 100 degrees, and that's not to say shit can't warm up. But I've been in Michigan my whole life, bitch. 85 used to be hot. What is this, 99? I'm moving at the slowest pace I ever moved in my life. I absolutely want a small, cool, sweet, impactful root in my space. Yep, this is a living root in my mind. So just like if you had ginger or something else sprouting, this is a living root. You might have your high John, which I did not bring down here, and that's okay. You might have your high John, and you know what I mean? That's your root. You're going to feed it. You're going to bless it, put some smoke over it, give him his rum, give him his whiskey, give him his bourbon, what have you. You know what I mean? His fire, his, you know what I mean? Some drumming, whatever it is, take him with you. I love high John, but this is a living root. We're going to tend it a different way. And I don't know. I think these can sprout for damn near anybody, but I also do think you kind of have to build a relationship and have an appreciation. Um, and it could have been planted in the ground long ago, but I want to see if I can get her kind of growing curly for a little bit. But anyway, it just brings me so much joy. But anyway, so you can have a living root like a sweet potato, or ginger. And again, the connotation with that plant, the relationship with that plant, and the point of you sprouting it indoors this way is all going to be your own thing. But this beautiful sweet lady right here is a gorgeous blessing in my life. I'm gonna put her. I don't want it to burn. I'm gonna put her on the shelf back here. So I want to talk about a couple other things very briefly. Kind of actually packed a good amount into the hour, I suppose. Never underestimate a tea light. Never underestimate a tea light. You can still get like 100 of them for $5, which is a little too much in my mind. But, hey, say you want to make a honey jar. You've used a bunch of the honey, but not all of it. And you stuff a bunch of shit in there, pour some more. Some people like fill everything up with honey. I use what I have. And if I can add more later, great, amazing. I got a totally different thing going that I almost talked about and then realized I won't be talking about that out loud for many moons, if ever. So never mind. But you can pop these bad boys. You know what I mean? Just unpeel it. And the reason I say unpeel it is because the last couple that I had, I like literally look at this. Why the fuck am I feeling this tea light like a clementine? It's a little cutie. Anyway, it's a citrus free little cutie. I just did that all for the show too. I'm gonna have to use this later. What you do, pretend you're making your honey jar, boom. Burn your fucking candle on top of it. Seal it with wax. That's what we're doing. We're sealing it, okay? We're sealing it with wax. Now, a lot of these things are soybean wax, but if you have the funds for good beeswax candles, now we're really fucking cooking. You know what I'm saying? Because beeswax, pollinator, attraction, teamwork, networking, assistance with a C and assistance with a TS as in extra people, and the sweetness, right? So we're really layering it. But this is probably soybean wax. In which case you could always, if you really wanted to, make an extra prayer around things like crop rotation and like soil rejuvenation and not having monocrops, stuff like that. Um, Anyway, I digress. It does not have to be honey, of course. You can use, whatever you have on hand. The candle is gonna fit. But tea lights burn, I think, anywhere from like 1 to 6 hours, depending on the tea light. They do come the smaller size or a slightly thicker, like a slightly chunkier one. So those are very inexpensive, very effective, and they have a nice little bit of surface room. For beginners, it's very easy to overdress a candle. I love dressing a candle. You don't always have to do it. It's not necessary, right? But it's fun and it adds, right? So another day, not today, we'll talk about adornment, dressing, and adding things. But this has a nice little bit of surface room. You can still use your nail or damn, all of my nails. Girl, I got a show to go to tonight. I gotta redo everything. So I like to use my nail and go counterclockwise because if you know, you know, but do your thing. And so you can do your prayer or your chant or whatever. So like I'm holding it and I'm taking my thumb around the wick and I'm going counterclockwise. And this is pulling up wax. So we're literally affecting the physical composition of the candle. You could put all those little wax shavings, back onto it, I suppose, if you wanted to. I'm just going to sweep my floor. But anyway, so now I've made a little channel. And while making that channel, I literally actively made a channel, changed the physical composition, and put my energy all over it. Boom. Done. You could sprinkle a little herbs in there. So, I don't know. I'm wealthy as fuck. I get my way. I'm gorgeous. I have fun every day. Wonderful opportunity to come to me. Networking supports me. Joy loves me. I love joy, and I'm a good person. Amen. And then sprinkle some stuff in there, some cinnamon, some saffron, whatever you have on hand. Saffron is expensive, so if you don't have it, don't worry. But sprinkle damn near whatever. Not pepper. Ideally not like peppers and onions and stuff, but sprinkle something sweet or like pumpkin pie spice or apple pie spice, whatever. And then, the classic unpeeled, self-contained, just pop that on top of something fire safe. I have a lot of like ceramic-y not cup holders, coasters. And because I usually put a cloth on my altar, I will put these candles in a fire safe dish or on one of the coasters. So lots of ways to use those. Finally, flowers. We talked about this in one of the essays offered recently also. So I just want to show you guys my recent thing of mini carnations. There we go. They were $5 each. $10 altogether, two bunches that were $5 each. It has been hot enough and humid enough that they did start, I gotta work on those actually, that they did start to sprout, which is unusual. I've had roses do that. And like they say it's a blessing. It's a good thing, like when your plants start to sprout. And that's true, especially cut flowers, but it's also because of the humidity. I worked in a florist for a good, like almost a year, but I was in there all the time. I was like running that thing by myself. So that year felt like 3 years. Anyway. Cooler temperatures will stay the blossoming a while and preserve it for some time. Warmer temperatures will encourage the bloom and accelerate the lifespan and decomp of the cut flower. If you are able to regularly change your water and what have you, it will last longer. Mini carnations in general last an incredibly long time, up to 3 weeks, I think, if not a little longer, give or take. Um, the grower, the transport, the storage, and how you care for them at home. But no carnations, mini carnations, mums, lilies, or alstroemeria should really, you know what I mean, be like fucking up on you too early. Alstroemeria in the lily family, Peruvian lily, very beautiful, gorgeous blossoms, poison to cats, toxic to cats, like a lot of like all lilies. But less expensive by the bunch than even 3 lily stems, okay? And again, a lot of our cut flowers come from where? Ecuador. They're not from here. People are not growing and shipping fucking 9 trillion freedom roses over here in the US, bitch. So again, respectfully, when we're using things, because the US is an import-based country where our own stuff is either inaccessible or outlawed or whatever it is, recognize where you're getting your things from to the best of your ability and offer those prayers of gratitude, protection, care, and provision for growers, laborers, transporters, everybody. And then do your part in advocacy work, whatever it is. Anyway, flowers attract beautiful spirits. They attract brightness. They are connected to, in a general way, because this will change by flower and culture, in a general way, connected to beauty, fertility, attraction, romance, friendship, lasting relationships, success. And they attract sweet spirits. They just like they are in our physical material world, pollinators and attractors, they attract sweet spirits in the various spirit realms as well. So this is full of floral water. It is a plastic bottle. I prefer a glass, but I'm not gonna fucking be upset about it, right? So a plastic bottle. Uh, boop, 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 boop. What was I gonna say? My brain just blinked out. It's rose water and orange blossom water. That's it. Rose water and orange blossom water. Just a little like boom. There we go. Um, I like to keep it in the fridge sometimes, not all the time, but the blue and dark brown or dark green glass and plastic help I don't know, the stuff last longer usually depending on what it is in there, but orange blossom water, rose water, both very used in attraction, sweetness, blessing, and desire, love, romance. So as something quick, it literally cools you off, invites positivity, invites prosperity, and is overall just something uplifting. The last thing that I am going to mention is dolls. Dolls are not for everybody. They won't be for everybody. You will not all be called to them. I love dolls, always have. I've always had them since I was little, forever. Barbies, American Girl dolls, Bratz dolls, like whatever. I got Monster High. I have a Monster High doll upstairs now. which I love. I just opened her recently. And I did just get a new doll, which I would love to show you, but I'm not going to. But I finally got a big porcelain doll. So I'm very excited to start my porcelain doll collection. If you know, you know. But this is one of my dolls. Now, she's actually a keychain. I got it from the beauty supply store, no joke. But as soon as I saw this, there are like kind of multiple designs, different dress colors. I really needed this kind of like stripy dress with the pastel roses. And so she has 3 pastel roses and her hair is done up. Even if you can't make clothes, right? Some of your spirits, for some people, your spirits will want a doll. Or if it doesn't creep you out too much, a doll is something you can enchant. And I say enchant on purpose. I did not say ensoul. I don't think many people need to be trying to house a spirit in something. It like if you're you don't need to. You know what I mean? It's not essential. It's not essential. Very few people, I think these are my opinions, very few people probably have the skill and the evenness to do that. Anyway, but you can enchant dolls. That's all I'll say there. So, not terribly expensive. Please keep them up well. Be kind to your dolls. Make sure they get jewelry and like their incense and their little offerings too. If it's something that has a spirit in it, you know. But if you have a doll that has a spirit, ideally you also have like some elders in your life already. You know what I mean? And you've already gone through this. Um, so anyway, yeah, I don't know. This was my little quick, I guess, Conjure 101, Craft and Conjure 101 for home things. Chicken feet, chickens, garlic, making your own stuff, rattles, awakening things, flowers. Yeah. Anyway, that's what I got. So I love you guys and